My mother-in-law smiled sweetly as she handed me the envelope. "Just a small favor, dear," she said. "Sign these papers for us." I trusted her completely. After all, she was family. But when I finally opened that envelope 3 months later, what I discovered inside made my blood run cold. Folks, I would love to get to know those of you who are tuning in right now a little better. If it is not too much trouble, please let me know where you are listening from. I am curious to learn about our audience. Enjoy the story. For years ago, I married Daniel Chin. I was 29, working as a pediatric nurse at Memorial Hospital in Portland, Oregon. Daniel was 32, a charming pharmaceutical sales representative with an easy smile and expensive taste in watches. His mother, Patricia, was a retired real estate agent who still kept her hand in the business. His father, Robert, owned 3 car dealerships across the state. At first, everything felt like a fairy tale. Daniel would surprise me with weekend trips to Cannon Beach, leave little notes in my scrubs pockets before my shifts, and cook elaborate Sunday breakfasts with homemade waffles and fresh berries. His parents welcomed me with open arms, or so I thought. The first warning sign came 6 months into our marriage. I came home from a double shift, exhausted, my feet aching. There was a stack of papers on our kitchen counter. Daniel was in the living room, watching a basketball game. "What are these?" I asked, picking up the documents. He barely glanced away from the screen. "Oh, just some refinancing paperwork for the house. Mom helped us get a better interest rate through her connections. You just need to sign where the tabs are. Shouldn't we read through them together first?" He finally turned to look at me, and something in his expression made me feel small. "Betsy, I handle the finances. That's how we agreed to split responsibilities, remember? You work your nursing shifts, I manage the money and investments. Unless you don't trust me now." There it was, that subtle twist that made me feel like I was the one being unreasonable. Of course I trusted him. He was my husband. So I signed where the little yellow tabs indicated, barely skimming the dense legal language. Then came the family obligations. Patricia called at least 4 times a week, always with urgent requests. Could I pick up her dry cleaning because she had a showing? Could I organize her charity luncheon because she was overwhelmed? Could I watch her friend's dog for the weekend because it was an emergency? Every time I hesitated or tried to explain I had work, Daniel would give me that look, disappointed, hurt. "She did so much to help us get this house, Betsy. The least we can do is be there for her when she needs us." The house. A beautiful craftsman-style home in Laurelhurst with hardwood floors, a renovated kitchen, and a garden full of roses. Patricia had found it for us, negotiated with the sellers, and helped us navigate the complex bidding process. We got it for $40,000 under asking price. "Nothing is too good for my son and his beautiful wife," she had said at the closing, hugging me tight. How could I say no to her after that? At family dinners, which happened every Sunday without fail, I noticed a pattern. Whenever I started talking about my work, sharing a story about a patient or a challenging case, Daniel would interrupt. "What Betsy is trying to say is," and then he would retell my story, but different, edited, missing all the important parts that made it meaningful to me. At first, I tried to correct him gently. "Actually, that's not quite what happened." But Patricia would pat my hand and smile. Daniel always was good at getting to the point. You medical people get so caught up in all the technical details. Robert would nod in agreement. That's why Daniel is so successful in sales. He knows how to communicate effectively. After a while, I just stopped trying to tell my own stories. The real trouble started 2 years into our marriage. I had been working toward a promotion to charge nurse, a position that would mean better hours, more responsibility, and a significant raise. I had put in the work, taken extra certifications, volunteered for the hardest shifts. The interview went perfectly. My supervisor, Linda Martinez, smiled warmly as we wrapped up. "Betsy, I'll be honest with you. You're our top candidate. We should have an answer by next week." I was so excited I could barely contain it. I came home and found Daniel in his home office, reviewing sales reports. "Daniel, I think I'm going to get the charge nurse position." He looked up from his laptop, and his expression was strange, unreadable. "That's great, honey. But charge nurse means a lot more stress, a lot more hours. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of responsibility?" "I've been preparing for this for 2 years. Of course I'm ready." He closed his laptop slowly. "It's just you've been forgetting things lately. Last week you forgot about Mom's doctor's appointment you promised to drive her to. And you've been so tired, Betsy. I worry about you taking on too much." Doubt crept in like cold water. Had I been forgetting things? Was I really ready? A week later, Linda called me into her office. Her expression was apologetic. Betsy, I'm so sorry. The position went to Jennifer from the evening shift. The decision came from upper management. They felt she had more consistent performance. I was devastated. Jennifer was good, but I had better credentials, better patient feedback, more experience. It didn't make sense. Don't be too hard on yourself, baby, Daniel consoled me that evening, rubbing my shoulders. Maybe it's for the best. You can focus on our life together, maybe start thinking about starting a family soon. 6 months later, the same thing happened with the nurse educator position. Another opportunity, another interview, another mysterious rejection. Daniel's response was the same. See, maybe the universe is telling you something. Not everyone is meant for leadership positions. There's no shame in that. I started to believe him. Maybe I just wasn't good enough. Maybe I was overestimating my abilities. I became quieter at work, stopped volunteering for committees, stopped raising my hand with ideas. Then came the incident that would change everything. 3 months ago, on a rainy Tuesday morning, Patricia called me at 6:30 a.m. I was getting ready for my shift, already running late because the bus schedule had changed. Betsy, sweetie, I need a huge favor. I have a very important client meeting at 9, and my car is making a terrible noise. Could I borrow yours for the day? Just today, I promise. I hesitated. My car was my lifeline to work. The hospital was 40 minutes away, and public transportation would take over an hour with 2 transfers. Patricia, I really need my car today. I have a shift at 7:30. Oh, Betsy. Her voice took on that hurt tone I had learned to dread. After everything we've done for you too. The house, the connections, helping Daniel build his career. And you can't help me with one simple request. My stomach twisted with guilt. Of course I'm sorry. Where should I leave the keys? You're an angel. Just leave them in the mailbox. I'll have Robert drop me off to pick it up. That one day turned into 3. Then a week. Then 2 weeks. Every morning I took the bus, then a light rail train, then another bus. Each commute cost me $14 each way. By the end of the first week, I had spent almost $200 on transportation. I tried to talk to Daniel about it. Honey, your mom still has my car. It's been over a week. I really need it back. He was scrolling through his phone, barely listening. She's in the middle of closing a huge deal. You want her to lose a 6-figure commission because you're too cheap to take the bus for a few days. It's been 2 weeks, Daniel. And it's not about being cheap. I'm spending a significant amount on transportation, and I'm late to work almost every day now. He finally looked up, irritated. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? It's just a car. Family helps family. Or have you become so selfish that you can't see beyond your own convenience? There it was again, that twist that made me feel like the villain in my own story. I gave up and stayed silent. My coworkers started to notice. Linda pulled me aside after a particularly rough morning when I arrived 20 minutes late, flustered and exhausted. Betsy, is everything okay? You've been late 6 times in the past 2 weeks. That's not like you at all. I'm so sorry, Linda. I'm having car trouble. I'll get it sorted out soon, I promise. She looked at me with concern, but didn't push further. 3 weeks into this nightmare, something happened that would finally open my eyes. It was a staff meeting, Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. Department heads, nurse managers, and senior staff all gathered in the large conference room on the 4th floor. I had rushed in, breathless from running from the bus stop, my hair disheveled from the wind and rain. Linda was presenting the quarterly performance metrics when she paused and looked directly at me. Betsy, I noticed you've been taking rideshare and public transit lately. What happened to your Honda? I hope everything's all right. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel, who was also at the hospital that day meeting with doctors about his company's new medications. The message read, in conference room C. Come here after your meeting. Important. But what I didn't know was that Daniel had accidentally sent me a message meant for his mother. The next text came through immediately. Mom's deal is closing next week. She can return the car then. Betsy's being dramatic as usual. Just ignore her. My hands started shaking. I stared at the screen, reading those words over and over. Betsy. Linda's voice broke through my fog. Is everything all right? And that's when something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the 3 weeks of exhausting commutes. Maybe it was the years of being made to feel small. Maybe it was seeing those words, dramatic as usual, and realizing my own husband spoke about me with such dismissal. Actually, Linda, no. Everything is not all right. The room went quiet. 15 pairs of eyes turned to me. My mother-in-law borrowed my car 3 weeks ago for one day. My husband told her she could take it without asking me. I've been spending hundreds of dollars on transportation, arriving late to work, and when I ask for my own car back, I'm told I'm being selfish and dramatic. Linda's expression shifted from concern to something harder, more focused. Your car was lent to someone else for 3 weeks without your permission? Yes. And your husband works here at this hospital? Yes. He's a pharmaceutical rep for Meridian. One of the other nurse managers, James, leaned forward. Betsy, I don't want to overstep, but that sounds like financial abuse and control. I had never thought of it in those terms. Financial abuse. Control. The words hung in the air like a diagnosis I had been too close to see. Linda closed her laptop. Betsy, I need you to stay after this meeting. Everyone else, thank you. We'll resume this afternoon. When the room cleared, Linda sat down across from me. Betsy, I'm going to tell you something that I probably should have told you a year ago, but I didn't want to overstep. Do you know why you didn't get the charge nurse position? My heart started pounding. You said upper management felt Jennifer had more consistent performance. That's what I was told to tell you. The truth is, your husband contacted our HR department and the nursing director. He told them you were struggling with anxiety and depression, that you were overwhelmed at home, and that taking on more responsibility would be detrimental to your mental health. He presented himself as a concerned spouse looking out for your well-being. The room started spinning. He what? He provided very convincing documentation. Emails you had supposedly sent him about feeling overwhelmed, struggling to keep up. He even suggested you were having memory issues and might need to be evaluated. Those emails, Linda, I never sent anything like that. I believe you. And now, hearing about this car situation, I'm starting to see a very disturbing pattern. Tears started streaming down my face before I could stop them. 3 years. For 3 years, Daniel had been systematically destroying my career while pretending to support me. There's something else you should know, Linda continued gently. 6 months ago, Daniel approached me directly. He said you and he were planning to start a family soon, and that you wanted to transition to part-time work, but were too proud to ask. He suggested I might want to consider that when making staffing decisions. I couldn't breathe. Every missed opportunity, every rejection, every moment of self-doubt, it had all been orchestrated by the man who promised to love and support me. Betsy, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Are you safe at home? Was I safe? Daniel had never hit me, never threatened me physically. But he had stolen my voice, my confidence, my career. He had made me doubt my own reality. I don't know anymore, I whispered. Linda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm going to connect you with our employee assistance program. They have resources for situations like this. And Betsy, get your car back. Today. That's your property, and you have every right to it. Would you like me to continue with part 3, where Betsy confronts Daniel and Patricia and begins to uncover the full extent of the manipulation? I left Linda's office in a daze and went straight to the hospital parking lot. I called Patricia's number. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. Patricia, this is Betsy. I need my car back today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. Please call me back within the hour. Then I called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, his voice smooth and professional. Hey babe, I'm with a client. Can this wait? No, it can't. I need my car back today. Betsy, we've been over this. Today, Daniel. Your mother has had my car for 3 weeks. I've spent over $600 on transportation. I've been late to work repeatedly. This ends today. There was a long pause. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, harder, colder. We'll talk about this at home. Don't make a scene at my workplace. Your workplace? Daniel, I work here too. I'm a nurse at this hospital. Or have you forgotten that while you've been busy sabotaging my career? What are you talking about? Linda told me everything. How you contacted HR and told them I was mentally unstable. How you fabricated emails to make them think I couldn't handle more responsibility. How you told them we were planning to start a family and I wanted to go part-time. Silence. Complete damning silence. You're being paranoid, Betsy. This is exactly the kind of behavior I was worried about. You're not thinking clearly. And there it was again, that gaslighting technique he had perfected over years, making me doubt my own perception of reality. But this time I didn't doubt. This time, I knew the truth. I want my car keys on the kitchen counter when I get home tonight. If they're not there, I'm reporting it as stolen. I hung up before he could respond. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. Every time I had a quiet moment, I found myself replaying the past 4 years in my head. Every time Daniel had helped me with finances. Every time Patricia had needed just one small favor. Every time I had been made to feel guilty for having boundaries. At 4 o'clock, my phone rang. It was Patricia. "Betsy, dear, Daniel told me you're upset about the car situation. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. You know how busy I've been with this deal. I was planning to return it next week. Patricia, I need it back today." "Well, that's going to be difficult. I'm in Salem right now showing properties. I won't be back in Portland until tomorrow afternoon at the earliest. Then I'll come pick it up. Text me the address." "Betsy, that's ridiculous. It's a 2-hour drive. Just be patient for one more. Text me the address, Patricia. Or I'm calling the police and reporting my car as stolen." Another long silence. "You wouldn't dare. After everything we've done for you. Try me." She hung up. But 10 minutes later, a text came through with an address in Salem. I asked Linda if I could leave an hour early. She didn't hesitate. "Go. Get your car. And Betsy, whatever you need, we've got your back here." I took a rideshare to Salem. $87 for the trip. I added it to the growing list of expenses in my phone. Patricia's car, a white BMW, was parked in the driveway of a large colonial-style house. My Honda sat in the street. I could see her through the front window, pacing back and forth, talking on her phone. I paid the driver and walked up to my car. I tried the door. Locked. Patricia came out of the house, her face tight with anger. "You actually drove all the way here. You're being absolutely unreasonable, Betsy. Keys, please. We need to talk about your behavior. You're acting completely irrational. Daniel is worried sick about you. Patricia, give me my keys, or I'm calling the police right now." She stared at me for a long moment, perhaps seeing something in my face she hadn't seen before. Finally, she reached into her purse and pulled out my keys, practically throwing them at me. "Fine. Take your precious car. But don't come crying to us when you need help next time. We've bent over backwards for you, and this is the thanks we get." I caught the keys and unlocked my car. Before getting in, I turned back to her. "Patricia, you borrowed my car for 3 weeks without my permission. You cost me hundreds of dollars and almost cost me my job. But you know what the worst part is? You've convinced yourself that you're the victim in this situation." I got in my car and drove away, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I got home that evening, Daniel was waiting in the living room. His face was red, his tie loosened. "I can't believe you embarrassed me like that. Calling my mother, threatening her, driving all the way to Salem like some kind of stalker." "I got my own car back, Daniel. My property that was taken without my permission. It's always about you, isn't it? Your car, your job, your feelings. What about our family? What about the sacrifices my parents made for us?" And then I remembered something. The envelope. The papers I had signed 3 years ago. The refinancing documents. Daniel had insisted I didn't need to read carefully. "Daniel, where are those papers from 3 years ago? The refinancing documents." His face went pale. "Why are you asking about that now?" "Because I never actually read them. And I'm starting to wonder what exactly I signed." "You're being paranoid again. Show me the papers, Daniel. They're in storage. We don't need to dig them up now." But I was already moving toward his home office. He kept important documents in a filing cabinet next to his desk. I had never gone through it before, respecting his privacy. But now I yanked open the drawer. Daniel tried to grab my arm. "Betsy, stop. You're not thinking clearly." I pulled out a thick folder labeled House Documents. Inside were the papers I had signed 3 years ago. I started reading, really reading, for the first time. The room started spinning. It wasn't a refinancing agreement. It was a quitclaim deed. By signing those papers, I had transferred my ownership interest in our house entirely to Daniel. The house we had purchased together, that I had contributed to, that I had helped pay the mortgage on for 3 years. I had unknowingly signed it all over to him. "You had me sign away my ownership of our house." Daniel's face was a mask now, cold and calculated. "You wanted to argue about every little financial decision. I was protecting our asset." "Protecting our asset?" "Daniel, you committed fraud. You lied to me about what those papers were. You signed them willingly, under false pretenses. You told me it was refinancing paperwork." He took a step closer, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt actually afraid of him. Not because I thought he would hurt me physically, but because I was finally seeing who he really was beneath the charming exterior. Who do you think they'll believe, Betsy? Me, a successful pharmaceutical representative with no history of deception? Or you, the nurse who's been documented as mentally unstable, who's been late to work repeatedly, who's clearly having some kind of breakdown? The documentation. The fabricated emails. It had all been building to this moment. He had been constructing a narrative for years, one where I was unreliable, unstable, incompetent, so that if I ever discovered the truth, no one would believe me. But he had made one mistake. He had underestimated me. I'm leaving, Daniel. Tonight. And then I'm calling a lawyer. You can't afford a lawyer. You have no money. I handle all our finances, remember? Then I'll find legal aid. I'll borrow money. I'll do whatever it takes. He laughed, a cruel sound. You have nowhere to go. No savings in your name. And good luck explaining to people why you're walking out on your loving husband, who's only ever tried to help you. I grabbed my purse and my phone. You know what your mistake was, Daniel? You did all of this at my workplace. Linda knows the truth. My colleagues know. You created a paper trail of your own manipulation. You got too confident. I walked to our bedroom and started throwing clothes into a duffel bag. Daniel followed, his confident facade starting to crack. If you walk out that door, you'll have nothing. No house, no car, no money. My parents will destroy you. They have lawyers, connections, resources you can't even imagine. I zipped up the bag and turned to face him. I'd rather have nothing than live one more day in a prison you built around me while calling it love. I drove straight to my coworker Sarah's apartment. Sarah and I had worked together for 5 years, and she had always been kind, though we weren't particularly close. But she was the only person I could think of who might help. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't ask questions. She just pulled me inside. Stay as long as you need, she said simply. That night, lying on Sarah's couch, I did something I should have done years ago. I Googled quitclaim deed fraud and signs of financial abuse. Article after article described my marriage with eerie accuracy. The isolation, the control of finances, the undermining of career, the weaponization of guilt. I had been living in an abusive relationship for 4 years and hadn't even recognized it. The next morning, Sarah helped me find a lawyer. Her name was Jessica Reeves, a family law attorney who offered free initial consultations. We met at her office downtown, a small but tidy space with diplomas covering one wall. I told her everything. The quitclaim deed, the fabricated documentation to my employer, the car, the constant guilt trips and manipulation. Jessica listened without interrupting, taking detailed notes. When I finished, she looked up and said, Betsy, what your husband did with that quitclaim deed is textbook fraud. You signed a document under false pretenses. That's voidable in court. But he said no one would believe me. He lied. And here's why he's wrong. First, you have Linda at the hospital who can testify about his interference with your employment. Second, fraud doesn't require witnesses if we can prove the pattern of deception. Third, the timing matters. Why would you willingly sign away your interest in a house you were actively paying the mortgage on? Hope flickered in my chest for the first time in days. But I don't have money for a lawyer. Daniel controls all our accounts. Jessica smiled grimly. In cases of financial abuse, there are emergency provisions. We can petition the court to order your husband to pay your legal fees, since he's the one who created this situation. We can also get you access to marital funds immediately. Over the next week, Jessica worked fast. She filed for legal separation, an emergency motion to void the quitclaim deed, and a restraining order requiring Daniel to stay away from my workplace. Daniel's response was swift and vicious. He hired Marcus Pemberton, one of the most expensive divorce attorneys in Portland. Within days, I received a thick packet of legal documents claiming I was mentally unstable, had abandoned our marriage without cause, and was making fraudulent accusations to avoid my own financial irresponsibility. But Jessica had been preparing too. Betsy, I need to ask you something. Do you think there might be other people your husband has manipulated? Other colleagues, maybe even other women? I thought about it. Daniel was charming, charismatic. He built relationships easily. And now that I understood his pattern, I started to wonder. There was a woman, I said slowly. About 2 years ago. Vanessa. She was a nurse practitioner at the hospital. She left suddenly, and no one really knew why. Daniel mentioned once that she had been difficult and had some kind of breakdown. Jessica's eyes sharpened. Do you know how to reach her? I didn't, but Linda did. Within 2 days, Jessica had tracked down Vanessa Martinez. And what Vanessa told us made my blood run cold. Vanessa had worked at Memorial Hospital 3 years ago. Daniel had started pursuing her romantically, even though he was already married to me. When Vanessa discovered he was married and rejected him, he had retaliated. He told hospital administration that Vanessa had been stealing medications, planting just enough doubt to trigger an investigation. Vanessa was eventually cleared, but the damage was done. She left Portland entirely, her reputation tarnished, her career derailed. I never reported it because I had no proof, Vanessa told us over a video call, her voice still shaking with old anger. He was so calculated. Everything he did was just subtle enough to have plausible deniability. But I knew. I knew he had destroyed my career because I rejected him. Jessica's case got stronger. She found 2 more women with similar stories. Daniel had a pattern of pursuing women at the hospital, and when they rejected him or threatened to expose him, he used his connections and reputation to undermine them. The hospital took notice. An internal investigation was launched. Daniel was placed on administrative leave, banned from all hospital properties. Patricia tried calling me 17 times the first week. When I finally answered, her voice was shrill with fury. How dare you destroy my son's life? He gave you everything. We gave you everything. That house, the car, the opportunities. The house you helped him steal from me, you mean? We didn't steal anything. You signed those papers willingly. Because I was lied to about what they were. That's fraud, Patricia. And you knew. You were there when Daniel asked me to sign them. You watched me sign documents your son told me were refinancing papers when they were actually a deed transfer. That makes you an accessory. The line went silent. You have no proof of that. Actually, I do. Daniel sent you a text that day. Remember? You texted back. Good, now the house is protected. I pulled our old phone records. It's all there. I heard her sharp intake of breath. Jessica had found those texts during discovery, and they were damning. Patricia had known exactly what Daniel was doing. You're a vindictive, ungrateful woman, Patricia hissed. My son is right about you. No, Patricia. I'm a woman who finally woke up. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Daniel fought every single point. He claimed the quitclaim deed was valid. He claimed I had abandoned the marriage. He claimed I owed his parents money for the house help they had provided. But Jessica was relentless. She brought Linda to testify. She brought Vanessa and the other women. She presented the text messages between Daniel and Patricia. She showed the pattern of financial control, the documented interference with my employment, the systematic isolation. The turning point came when Daniel's own lawyer found evidence Daniel had been hiding assets. A secret investment account. Cash deposits that didn't match his reported income. Expensive purchases made in cash. When confronted, Daniel claimed it was money he had saved. But the timing told a different story. The account had been opened shortly after our marriage. The deposits coincided with bonuses and commissions he had told me went to taxes and retirement. He had been siphoning money for years, building his own safety net while keeping me financially dependent. The judge, a woman named Sandra Kim with sharp eyes and no patience for games, reviewed all the evidence over 2 grueling days of hearings. On the final day, she delivered her ruling. Mr. Chun, Judge Kim said, looking directly at Daniel, you have perpetrated a systematic scheme of fraud, manipulation, and abuse against your wife. The quitclaim deed is hereby voided. The house will be sold and proceeds divided equally. You will pay all legal fees for both parties. You will pay spousal support for 3 years while Ms. Betsy rebuilds her career that you deliberately sabotaged. Daniel's face turned purple with rage. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am forwarding this case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal fraud charges. What you did may rise to the level of criminal conduct. I sat in that courtroom, Sarah on one side and Jessica on the other, and felt something I hadn't felt in 4 years. The first few months after the divorce were strange. I moved into a small 1-bedroom apartment in the Hawthorne district. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every decoration, I chose it myself. I painted the bedroom a soft sage green, a color Daniel had always hated. I bought a ridiculous number of plants and lined them up on the windowsill. I made coffee however I wanted, in whatever mug I wanted, without anyone criticizing my technique. The little freedoms felt enormous. At work, something remarkable happened. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Linda called me into her office again. Betsy, I want to talk to you about the charge nurse position. It's opening up again. Jennifer is moving to Seattle. And I want you to know that this time, there will be no interference, no hidden sabotage. Just your qualifications and your merit. I applied. I interviewed. And this time I got the position. On my first day as charge nurse, I walked into the hospital with my head high. Several nurses congratulated me. Even some of the doctors who had worked with me for years commented that it was long overdue. I always wondered why you kept getting passed over, Dr. Patterson said. You're one of the best nurses we have. I wanted to tell him that I had wondered too, that I had spent years thinking I wasn't good enough. But instead, I just smiled and said, "Thank you. I'm ready for this." And I was. 6 months later, I was thriving. My team respected me. My decisions were valued. I led quality improvement initiatives and mentored new nurses. I wasn't afraid to speak up in meetings anymore. I didn't start every sentence with an apology. One afternoon, I was grabbing coffee at a small cafe near the hospital when someone tapped my shoulder. "Betsy." I turned around. It was Vanessa, the nurse practitioner who had testified at my divorce hearing. "Vanessa, how are you?" She smiled, looking lighter than she had during that painful video call months ago. "I'm good. Really good, actually. I moved back to Portland last month. Started a new position at Providence. And Betsy, I wanted to thank you. Thank me. For fighting back. For exposing Daniel. After what happened to me, I felt so alone. I thought I was the only one, that maybe I had imagined it all. Your case validated everything I went through. And it made me realize I deserved better than to let him chase me out of my own city." We ended up talking for an hour, swapping stories about our recovery, our careers, our lives. When we parted ways, Vanessa hugged me tight. "You're a warrior, Betsy. Don't forget that." That summer, I took a vacation by myself. A real vacation, not a trip orchestrated by someone else's preferences. I went to the Oregon coast, stayed in a small bed and breakfast in Cannon Beach, and spent 3 days reading books on the beach, eating whatever I wanted, and sleeping without an alarm. On the last day, I was walking along the shore when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, Ms. Chin? This is Detective Laura Simmons with the Portland Police Department. I'm calling about the fraud case involving Daniel Chin." My heart started racing. "Yes. Mr. Chin has been formally charged with fraud and forgery. The district attorney's office believes they have a strong case. I wanted to let you know that you may be called as a witness." "I'll be there," I said without hesitation. The trial happened 8 months after the divorce was finalized. Daniel sat at the defendant's table in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, his lawyer whispering in his ear. Patricia sat in the gallery, her face a mask of barely contained fury. I testified about the quitclaim deed, about how Daniel had lied about what I was signing. Vanessa testified about his retaliation. Linda testified about his interference with my career. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on 2 counts of fraud. Daniel was sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to pay restitution. His pharmaceutical career was over. His reputation was destroyed. As I left the courthouse that day, Patricia tried to approach me. Security stopped her, but she shouted anyway. "I hope you're happy now. You've destroyed him. Destroyed our entire family." I turned and looked at her calmly. "No, Patricia. He destroyed himself. I just stopped letting him destroy me. A year after my divorce, something unexpected happened. I met someone. His name was James Torres, a pediatrician at the hospital. We had worked together occasionally, but I had never really noticed him beyond professional interactions. He was quiet, thoughtful, always kind to the children and respectful to the nursing staff. One day, we ended up in the break room at the same time. He was reading a book about hiking trails in Oregon. "Planning a trip?" I asked. He looked up and smiled. "Thinking about it. I moved here 2 years ago and still haven't explored as much as I'd like." "Do you hike?" "I used to love it. Haven't done it in a while." "Well, if you ever want a hiking buddy, let me know. I promise I'm excellent company. I carry extra snacks and I don't complain when I'm tired." I laughed. Something about his easy manner, his lack of agenda, made me feel comfortable. We started hiking together on weekends. Then coffee between shifts. Then dinner at small restaurants where we talked about everything and nothing. James was different from Daniel in every possible way. He listened when I spoke. He asked my opinion and actually wanted to hear my answer. He celebrated my successes instead of feeling threatened by them. When I told him about my divorce, about Daniel and the abuse and the fraud case, he listened quietly, his expression serious. "That must have taken incredible courage to walk away and fight back," he said finally. "Sometimes I still wonder if I should have seen it earlier. If I was stupid for not recognizing what was happening." James shook his head firmly. "You weren't stupid. You trusted someone you loved. That's not a weakness, Betsy. That's human. The strength is in what you did once you realized the truth. You didn't just leave. You fought. You protected yourself and other women. That's extraordinary." 6 months into our relationship, James asked if I wanted to meet his family. His parents were visiting from Arizona for Thanksgiving. I was nervous, but his mother, Carmen, hugged me the moment we met, and his father, Roberto, asked thoughtful questions about my work and actually listened to my answers. No interruptions, no talking over me, no explaining what I really meant. At dinner, I started telling a story about a challenging case at the hospital. Halfway through, I stopped myself, that old habit of going silent kicking in. James noticed. "Betsy, what happened with the case? I want to hear the rest." "Oh, I was probably rambling." "You weren't rambling. You were telling us about something important. Please finish." And I did. And everyone listened. Later, as we drove home, I started crying. James pulled over, concerned. "What's wrong? Did my parents say something?" "No, they were wonderful. It's just," I struggled to find the words. That was the first time in years that I told a story at a family dinner and actually got to finish it. No one interrupted me. No one talked over me. No one made me feel like what I had to say didn't matter. James reached over and took my hand. "You matter, Betsy. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And anyone who made you feel otherwise was wrong." 2 years after my divorce, I was promoted again. This time to nursing director of the pediatric department. It came with a significant raise, an office with a window, and the authority to make real changes in patient care. Linda retired that same year, and at her retirement party, she pulled me aside. "I'm so proud of you, Betsy. Not just for the promotion, but for everything you've overcome. You could have let that experience break you. Instead, you let it make you stronger." "I had help," I said, thinking of Sarah, Jessica, Vanessa, and all the people who had supported me. We all need help sometimes. The strength is in accepting it and moving forward. One random Tuesday, I was shopping for groceries at Whole Foods when I saw him. Daniel. He was in the produce section, looking thinner, older. His clothes weren't as expensive. The confident swagger was gone. For a moment, our eyes met. He opened his mouth as if to say something, then closed it. He looked away first and walked quickly toward the exit. I stood there holding a bag of apples and realized I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no fear. Just nothing. He was a chapter in my life that had closed, and I had moved on. That evening, I came home to my apartment, the same one bedroom I had moved into after the divorce, though I had redecorated it twice since then. James was cooking dinner in my kitchen. We had talked about moving in together, maybe buying a small house, but we were taking our time. "How was your day?" he asked, stirring something that smelled like garlic and tomatoes. "I saw Daniel at the grocery store." James turned, spatula in hand, his expression careful. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, actually. I am. I realized I don't carry any weight from that relationship anymore. It happened, it shaped me, but it doesn't define me." He smiled and kissed my forehead. "That's growth, love." We ate dinner at my small table by the window, talking about our days, making plans for the weekend, laughing at a ridiculous story James told about a 4-year-old patient who insisted her teddy bear needed surgery too. After dinner, I stood at my window with a glass of wine, looking out at the Portland skyline. The city lights twinkled in the darkness, and I thought about the journey that had brought me here. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who apologized for taking up space, who let others speak for her, who believed she wasn't good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. That woman had been buried under years of manipulation and abuse. But she hadn't disappeared. She had been waiting, gathering strength, preparing for the moment when she would finally say, "Enough." The car situation, those 3 weeks of exhausting bus rides and rising expenses, had been the catalyst. But the truth was bigger than a borrowed car. It was about a pattern of control, a systematic erosion of identity, a slow theft of self-worth. And when I finally found my voice again, when I finally stood up and demanded to be seen, to be heard, to be respected, everything changed. Not because the world suddenly became easier. It didn't. The divorce was brutal. The trial was painful. The recovery was slow. But I was free. Free to make my own choices, to pursue my own dreams, to live my own life on my own terms. James came up behind me and wrapped his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how far I've come. About how close I came to losing myself completely. About how grateful I am that I found the courage to fight back. You always had that courage, Betsy. You just needed the right moment to remember it." Maybe he was right. Maybe the courage had always been there, buried deep but never truly gone. I thought about all the women who might be reading this story, who might be living their own version of what I went through. Women who are being made to feel small, invisible, inadequate. Women who are being told their perceptions are wrong, their feelings are invalid, their boundaries are selfish. And I wanted to tell them what I learned. It's not normal for someone who loves you to make you doubt yourself constantly. It's not love when someone systematically undermines your career, your confidence, your sense of reality. It's not family loyalty when people demand you sacrifice your well-being, your boundaries, your self-respect. Real love builds you up. Real partnership celebrates your successes. Real family respects your boundaries. And if you find yourself making yourself smaller, quieter, less ambitious to make someone else comfortable, that's not compromise. That's erasure. The hardest part isn't recognizing the abuse. It's believing you deserve better. It's finding the courage to walk away from everything familiar, even when that familiar is painful, because the unknown is terrifying. But on the other side of that fear is freedom. On the other side of that pain is peace. On the other side of that silence is your own voice, waiting to be heard. It took me 3 weeks of borrowed car troubles to finally see the truth. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And once I spoke up, I couldn't be silenced again. Your wake-up call might be different. It might be a car or a credit card or a job opportunity that mysteriously vanishes. It might be 1,000 small cuts that finally add up to one undeniable wound. But when that moment comes, I hope you find the courage to listen to that voice inside you that knows something is wrong. I hope you reach out for help. I hope you fight back, because you deserve to live a life where you don't have to apologize for existing, where your achievements are celebrated, not sabotaged, where your voice matters. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it. And now, standing at my window with a man who loves me for exactly who I am, working in a career I fought hard to reclaim, living in a space that reflects my choices and my dreams, I can finally say, I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm truly living. Sometimes the smallest act of reclaiming your power, demanding your car back, speaking your truth, refusing to stay silent, can change the entire trajectory of your life. Don't wait for the perfect moment to stand up for yourself. The moment you decide you deserve better is the perfect moment. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to hear more stories about courage, resilience, and reclaiming your life. And if you or someone you know is experiencing manipulation or abuse, please reach out for help. You deserve so much more than you've been told. Until next time, remember, your voice matters. Use it.